Too many shenanigans.
Locked in the bunker, shadows shake. One man clapping secrets awake. Board games living, dice they break. Echoes pound and hearts they quake. In your bunker, board games rolling. One man clapping, stories growing. Hard rock thunder, speakers blowing. Clapping loud, the unknown sound.
Welcome to the sound of one man clapping. I am the one man coming to you direct from the bunker. It's a week off for me, which hopefully means more amazing games. We'll see what unfolds. Tomorrow's a wild place. This week is a double episode week, and if you feel like listening to a bunch of hooligans laugh for about an hour straight, hop on over to the previous episode called Knights of the Round Table. Today, however, it's games that were. I'll do my very best with all the FOMO for this mofo, and in voices in my head, I want to unpick the value of stretch goals in the 2026 market. What the fuck? I have had a spectacular couple of weeks. I had 2 straight days of board gaming for my birthday, which meant a captive audience and completely selfish game scheduling. I could roster whatever I wanted. If I said we're going to play High Five, we're going to play High... It's not a game. I just made that up. High Fiving's not a game. It's the thing you do when you win or lose. Come on, people. Anyway, played a lot of games. I make it a food, you play the game I want. So we had 2 days. We just had a table of 4 for the Friday, and then we had, I don't know, what do we have, 20 in the house on Saturday? And it was good. So I'm not going to go through all of them, because we played quite a few. And I got other things to discuss in this smarmy little episode of mine, other than just the games that I played. As much as I know that, I'd like to just sit here and talk about every infinitesimal little game I played, because I've got nothing better to do. I quite like it. This is my therapy. I'm on the leather couch. I've got a little clipboard out making notes about my own thoughts. It's a great big emotional circle jerk for one. But, excuse me. Starting off, we kicked off the Friday with a game that I had very much wanted to play for quite some time. And it was one that I had a number of people go, yeah, no, I don't think so. That's not for me. They haven't even tried it yet. I mean, just so lame. Anyway, that was the Old King's Crown. Now, if you've been under a board gaming rock for a little while and know nothing about the Old King's Crown, it was a game that was published last year in crowdfunding. There is a limited retail release available. It's on crowdfunding again now, which we'll talk about more in FOMOMOFO. But Old King's Crown is... it's gorgeous. Okay, not only is it gorgeous, I think the gameplay it's quite unique. It's basically a lane battler, right? We've all got the same deck of cards. It's different art, it's different flavor text, but the same deck of cards. They're numbered, they've got special powers on them, special capabilities. And we go into a bidding phase and use one of your cards to bid, and you're buying a card that has more special powers that goes into your little card market, your little tableau that you've got. And that card's lost, and then you've got your other cards that you play face down into 3 different areas that you're fighting for. And there are all kinds of shenanigans. So you play the cards face down, there's a little after card play shenanigizing where you get to add some more weight and capability to different areas. It goes in turn order. And then you reveal the cards, and there's more shenanigans because other things can happen, come out of your hands. And if you win the area, you might get points, you might get other bonuses, you might be sending cards into different parts of the play. And you rinse and repeat that 3 times, and the round's over. And at the end of the round, certain things happen. You can send other cards to different spaces, whether it's cards that you've played or cards in your hand, and that it's kind of like trashing them for benefits. And then you rinse and repeat and start it again. But there are a lot of shenanigans in this game. A lot. Like, this should just be called shenanigans, because it really is. It's top to bottom. And I think the first play is very polarizing. I really enjoyed the first play. I think part of it's because maybe I watched the How to Play video leading up to my birthday celebrations. I think I probably watched it 6 times, because the first 2 times I watched it, I'm like, I have no idea what this is supposed to, like, what's happening here. And I think I must have watched it 5 or 6 times. And I set it up, and I didn't so much play dummy hand, but I got a feel for it on the table before everyone came over, because I wanted to game master it a bit. And when I say game master it, it's not about winning, which I certainly did not do, by the way, spoiler alert, but just making sure that I really understood the nuance of the turns and the flow and whatnot. And so it could well be because I had done that I maybe had a better time. I'm not saying the other people around the table had a bad time, but they certainly went away. Unimpressed would be the wrong word. I just think uncertain might be the better in not knowing whether or not they like the game. It's fine because, as I said, come to my place, I make it the food, you play the game, and we kind of have this unwritten rule that if you're hosting, you get to pick first game. It kind of assures that I can pick Old King's Crown, and people might roll their eyes and go, "Oh God, this nonsense again." But I'm hopeful after 3 or 4 forced Stockholm Syndrome plays at the table that maybe we'll start to see the Matrix together and have a better time with it. I really enjoy my play of it. I think it's beautiful on the table. I think the flow of the game makes sense. The whole game board is basically a gargantuan player aid. It talks you through the round, so there's no player aids required. It's all on the board. You really could play this without the board. You could just have the 3 lanes and a couple of cards in between the lanes that you're battling. But the game is stunning. The board is stunning. I think what's more remarkable, or even more remarkable, this is designed and the art is done by the same person. Pablo Clark is responsible for the design of this game, and he did every bit of art by hand for this, and the art is freaking glorious. It's published by Eerie Idle Games. There's a recent Kickstarter for the expansion and some upgraded bits. It's closed. I think we touched on that a little more in FOMOMOFO, but late pledge is likely to open soon. So after Old King's Crown, we played another game that's recent to my collection that I was very excited about, and that is Nippon Zaibatsu. Now, this is I'll call it a reprint. It's more than a reprint. It's kind of like Nippon 2.0. They changed a few of the rules. Nippon's I call it a classic game. I think it's 2002. I don't know. I'm going to get it wrong. I haven't got that part done in my research. It's an older game. Could be 20 years, could be 10 years, I have no idea. It's been around a long time. And this re-release of Nippon Zaibatsu just has some refreshed art, a little bit of a refreshed gameplay loop. And essentially, Nippon Zaibatsu is about the time in Japanese industrial infrastructure in their history where they realized that they were 40, 50, 60 years behind the rest of the world when it came to sort of industrial revolution and automation and factories and whatnot. And the Zaibatsu, and if there's anyone Japanese out there and I'm getting this wrong, please excuse me. I am the whitest white guy you will ever meet. I'm doing my best here. The Zaibatsu, which were basically the large, not quite an oligarch, but the large influential business families and corporate company houses banded together and came up with a plan to hyper accelerate a stage in Japan's evolution to bring them up to speed. And they did so. In a very short period of time, they not only became highly competitive again, but they superseded a lot of the world when it comes to manufacturing and whatnot. And so, no surprise, Nippon Zaibatsu is an economic euro, but it's a really wonderful euro with some beautiful push-pulls. So in Nippon, you've got these pools of workers. They're in groups of 3 at the top of the board, and under each pool there are 2 actions that you can take. And so on your turn, it's not worker placement, you're pulling a worker out of that pool. It goes onto your board, and you get to do one of the 2 actions that are below that worker. Well, not one or two, one of the 2 actions. And there are ways to boost those actions so that you can combo tastic them a little bit. And so basically that worker slots into your board, and there are a number of different colored workers. There's blue and black and yellow and red and white. I think there are 5 colored workers. And it slots into your board, and you do the action. So instead of placing a worker, you're pulling a worker out of a market and popping it on your board. That's it. Easy peasy. Turns are really simple. You pull a worker, you do an action, it goes to the next person. When it comes back around to you, you're going to pull another worker. Now there are 5 or 6, I can't remember exactly how many, columns on the board of different clusters of workers. And the workers that are in those little pools above them are randomized. They're from a draw bag. So you could have 3 whites, you could have a gray. Oh, there's gray in there as well. You could have a gray, black, and a white. They're all over the place. And so you need to be careful, because at the end of the round, or at the end of your round could be 3 turns and you decide to do a reset, and Super Trooper's round could be 6 turns and before it decides to reset. So before you do a reset, which is where you pay all your workers, you've got to look at how many different colors of workers you have. So if you have 3 different colors of workers, they're going to cost you 3,000 yuan. I'm really sorry, Japan. I have listeners in Japan. I apologize. I should know more. You pay 3,000 of the currency per worker. So if you have 4 different colors, that's 12,000. That's a lot. I mean, it could be 12. Each coin is 1,000, so it's 12,000 if you have 4 different workers. So you really want to try and specialize at least a little bit in what colors you're bringing back. And so at the start of the round, you might look out and go, well, there are only 2 blue workers out there. I really want blue. Because also when you reset, the bottom worker you have in your column where you slot them in, because when you bring workers onto your board, you slot them into little spaces in a column. The bottom worker will activate a special bonus based on its color, and the top worker will activate a special bonus based on its color, provided you have at least 4 workers. So if you have a blue worker at the bottom, you get the blue bonus. If you have a white worker at the top, you get the white bonus. And so you really are staring at this board going, well, I really want to do that action, but in order to do that action, I have to take a yellow worker. I don't have any yellow workers, which means at the end of the round, when I reset, I'm going to be paying another 3,000 yen for my salaries. It's a delightful, painful little space you've got to make your decisions in. And, you get income before you pay your workers. But some of us went into a round with 1,000 yen in front of us because we had 4 workers and just got wiped out for wages. And I mean, that's business. If you ever owned your own business, you get wiped out for wages every week, baby. And then on top of that, we've got to send goods out into the different areas. And as you send goods out in the different areas, you play these little influence markers out around the areas, which count for area majority scoring. So if I might pay 2 bales of paper, and to do so, if I do that, I get to put my little 2 influence out somewhere where paper is traded into an area, and that 2 will count towards the influence at the end of each round. There are 3 scoring opportunities. It's just simply based on the total number of numbers on your different goods that have gone out into the area. Different factories open up that you have to buy and invest in to make better goods. If you can make lenses, 2 lenses might give you a 6 instead of a 2. I'm not really doing that mechanic justice, but I hope I've gone across a little bit. Basically, what you're doing is you're converting your resources into influence in areas, and then you're going to get area majority scoring. And there's other bits you're doing. There are trains you can send out, there are boats you can ship out, and they all weigh in. All in all, it wasn't a very quick game for us. I think part it was our first game. I think you could play a 3 game of Nippon Zabatsu in about 75-80 minutes, and I think it would be absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed Nippon Zabatsu. I think it's a fantastic game. I'm delighted it's in my collection. This is the recent crowdfunding campaign that delivered just this year. It's beautiful. It's well made. The money's gorgeous. The resources are beautiful. And, the board is fairly minimalistic. It's this quite small board for such a crunchy Euro. It's quite a small board, and you set it up and you set your player board up and off you go. But that decision of all I'm going to do is I need to pull a worker back and take an action, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. Nippon Zabatsu is by Nuno Bizarro Sentiero, Paolo Soledade, and art by Maya Karkufi, and published by Crowd D Games. Next one we played. Oh man, I've been trying to get this game to the table quite a bit, and I finally got it to the table recently at a board game day out in Castle Hill after, I won't say begging, but kind of just gently nudging, going, hey, anybody want to play Kalamala? I got a Kalamala here. Anybody want to play Kalamala? And people are like, oh, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. So finally we got it played at this board game day. And then on my birthday, I said, look, I'm going to get Kalamala. And everyone's like, huzzah! Kalamala. This is another reprint. And I don't know that they changed any rules. I know the graphic design was all refreshed by my boy Ian O'Toole. But Kalamala is basically, it's an old school beige Euro. And I've talked about Kalamala on the podcast before, so but basically what you're doing is you're putting a worker out, and the worker's doing a thing. And if your worker's sitting on top of another worker, that worker also gets to do a thing. So depending on the space you want to go to, you've got to weigh up how badly you want to do that action versus how many free actions you're giving to other people. It's a wonderful, spicy, old school Euro that has a remarkably simple decision on your turn. On your turn, you're putting something out, and you're going to do the stuff that it's sitting next to. But that zing of the consequences of you putting it out, it's wonderful. If you don't know anything about Kalamala, go look up Kalamala. It is a wonderful game. I've talked about it at length before, so I'm not going to do it again. But that's by Fabio Lupiano, art by Ian O'Toole and Harold Lishkin, published by Alley Cat Games. And thank you, Alley Cat Games. One of my discs was missing, and you sent me a replacement disc all the way from wherever you are in Eastern Europe, and it got here in about 8 days, and it was absolutely wonderful. So my thanks. Well, Kalamala, next game I want to talk about, again, another, this could be one of my top 10 games, I reckon, with enough plays, enough more plays. This is another Fabio Lupiano game. Lupiano and Nestor Mangione. This is Shackleton Base. I adore Shackleton Base. I'm not very good at it. I'm not going to pretend I'm very good at it. But I freaking adore it. I think it is such a good game. And again, it's a worker placement game. You're putting a worker out, doing some stuff. And in Shackleton Base, you've got a central crater, and you've got the moon that you can send people to, the moon depot where you trade workers for workers. You've got a series of spaces you can pop your workers on for unique actions, and if the colors match the space, then you get bonus huzzas. And there's 3 different corporations that you set up at the start of the game, and depending on which corporations you set up, the game will play quite differently. This is not quite like SETI, where SETI you have the 2 surprise alien races, and they change the game a little bit. They're bringing these super powerful cards to change the game a little bit. The Shackleton-based corporations will change how you play. They will change your decisions. They will change how you look at the board, and they will inform your strategy. Not that I'm good enough at this game that I have anything that I would label strategy. I'm not going to pretend that that's the case. I also recently invested in a 3D printer, and so Shackleton Base has these little domes that go out on the board to indicate where you've got presence on the board, and I printed these sexy little geodesic domes in player colors with little glossy white frames for the... Oh my god, they're just so spunky. Anyway, we play Shackleton Base. I adore Shackleton Base. I will play Shackleton Base any day of the week. And as I mentioned, it's by Fabio Lupiano, Nestor Mangione, art by David Stibon, and published by Désolé, nous sommes français. Sorry, we are French. Oh, as I said, this was a good couple of days. So next up, Le Douche. He often goes by the name of Battleships, but I prefer his moniker Le Douche. He'd crashed at my place on the Friday night, so we had an early morning Saturday. Not so early for me, but Le Douche likes to get up at 3 in the morning, so he got up and sat in the dark waiting for me to make a coffee. Oh, fucking weirdo. No, he's not. I don't think he knew where the coffee was. I should have explained that to him before I went to bed. What a dick. Anyway, I got up, we had coffee, we sorted the kids out, and then a game that I have been really excited to get to the table, and I'm so glad that it stood up to what I was looking for. This is Scales of Fate. Now, Scales of Fate is this gorgeous 2-player head-to-head battler based in the Veiled Fate IP, and it is basically it's ancient gods. It's an abstract. It's a positional abstract, right? It's ancient Roman, Greek, Roman. I think I've worked it out. They're demigods, and they're not related to any actual real mythology. This is why my brain just had an aneurysm. So you've got a number of demigods in there, and you've got this board that you set up. It's got a unique setup from a blind draw every game you play. And you're going to take turns placing demigods out on this board. And before you start, from a deck of cards, you're drawing 2 demigods, and those are the demigods that you're trying to manipulate into positions that you want. So all the demigods start on this little Kramer track on the board that goes from 1 to 14, and they all start on 7, all together, all huddled together like they're freezing to death. And different things you do by placing demigods out on the board will move them either up or down that track. What you're trying to do is trying to have the 2 demigods that you're trying to score with end up at the end of the game on the same number. So if they both end up on 7, for example, you will get 7 points. If you can move one of them to the 2 and one of them to the 10, you will get 8 points. If you can guess which demigods your opponent is trying to manipulate, you can get up to 2 more points. So it's a little bit of a social deduction game, but it's not win or lose based on that. If you can't guess either of them, you lose points. If you guess one, you get 1 point. If you guess them both, you get 2. And so you're trying to read into the decisions that your opponent's making and where and how they're moving these demigods around. And of course, at the end of each round, the rounds are about 6 or 7 minutes. At the end of each round, there's a question that needs to be answered. And you know that question before you start the round. And the question might be, are any of your demigods still on 7? And you have to answer truthfully, yes or no. And so at the end of the round, you look down, are either or both of your demigods on 7? It's yes or no. And you've got a little notepad like you're playing Clue for the rest of us. And you're trying to make notes and work out who your opponent's moving around. At the end of 3 rounds, you reveal who your demigods are, you take your score, and you make your guess on who the other person's having, and you take your score. There's 3 little once a game powers you can use. You can go, yoink, I'm going to take that. And if you use them, it's a -1 point, but they're quite juicy. And the whole game's done in 25 to 30 minutes. It is gorgeous to look at. It's hot as wasabi to play. There's no backstabbing, but every time your opponent touches something, you go, And every time you go to make a move, you're like, okay, do I want to move something that really helps me, or do I want to move something that looks like it helps me? I'll tell you what, it's not a very big box. It's not a very big thing to set up. It's not a very long teach. We played, I think, 2 games back to back, and it's so good. I absolutely love this. I'm not one often for positional abstracts. I love Santorini. I think Santorini, New York was just a little bit too much for no reason. I love, I always get it wrong, it's either Iliad or Icor. Super Troopers got it. And it's a game that you place tile out and it bounces off other tiles, it reacts to other tiles that are out there, and you do wonderful things. I played a lot of chess growing up, but I can take or leave chess at this point. I'm not too fussed on it. But Scales of Fate, it's a delightful little box of game. And it's not that hard to teach. It probably took us 10 minutes to work it out before we set it up. And the game explains everything as you go. It's fantastic. Scales of Fates by Max Anderson, Zach Dixon, Austin Harrison, art by Harry Conway, and published by IV Studios. IV Studios, you did a great fucking job with that one. Well, on my birthday, I had a request. And when it's your birthday, you can request whatever you like. And Coop, who's a dear friend of all of ours, he has all the games. And when I say all the games, he has all the co-op games. All the big, beautiful co-op games. And I said, Coop, on my birthday, I want to play Nemesis Retaliation, if that's all right. And he was like, yeah, man, let's do it. I said, do you know how to play? He's like, it's Nemesis. How hard can it be? So we brought Nemesis over, Nemesis Retaliation, which is the most recent one, because Coop owns all the Nemesis. And we set it up, which took no small amount of time. We set up Nemesis Retaliation, and then I think 40 minutes later we took a turn, and it was just a little bit of unpicking the rhythm of the game. Once we got the flow of the turns, it was a piece of cake to run. It really was. By the time we'd had a couple of rounds, we all knew what we were doing. I mean, we were getting slaughtered pretty badly, but we knew what we were doing. And Nemesis Retaliation was an absolute blast. It was everything I wanted it to be. It was big, chonky minis. It was a sprawling, dark corridors. It was rolling dice. It was flipping cards. It was... None of us opted for the backstabby objectives. If you played Nemesis before, it's only semi co-op. I'd roped Lou into the table. Lou doesn't play many games anymore because she's too cool for that. Well, not too cool, but too busy, and whatever. She didn't realize she was signing up for a 4-hour game. I did. It was my birthday. I don't feel bad whatsoever, and she had a fantastic time. We ended up all getting off the ship at the end. We did win, all except for Lou, who swallowed an alien and exploded, and she deserved it because she tried to leave me behind. So I was very happy when she fucking exploded. Nemesis Retaliation, it is not everyone's cup of tea. You need to really want to play something like this, and I really want to play it. In fact, Coop's left it here so I can try it solo. I'm looking at it over on the shelf thinking, I've got a week off. I've got time. I could do a Nemesis Retaliation solo, and I'm very much thinking of it. It was fantastic. I wanted to play it so badly, and as I said, when you've got everyone there for your birthday, you go, hey guys, it's Nemesis. I need 4 other victims, and it was great. I loved every minute. That's by Adam Kwapinski, and art by a literal army, and published, of course, by Awakened Realms. And we washed that down on my birthday. At the end, I think everyone was leaving. We were going to leave, and I just looked up and I said, Galactic Cruise? And Project L and Super Trooper went, oh, yeah. I think we started that at 9 o'clock, which is great. That's good. I mean, it might not be late for some of you, but I turned 52. 9 o'clock, it's like starting Galactic Cruise at 9 o'clock. It was like the New Year's Eve when Super Trooper and I looked at each other at 10 and said, want to play some Voidfall? A little bit of Voidfall? So we did. We set up Galactic Cruise. It was just the 3 of us. It was Project L and Super Trooper and myself. We set up Galactic Cruise. And this is the first time that we played with the advanced techs, the ones that grow and mutate and change. Most of us totally forgot about them through most of the game. But I love Galactic Cruise. I think Galactic Cruise is a spectacular game. I think it's Lacerda-y without unnecessary Lacerda bits. and I love Vital Lacerda, but some of his games, all of his games, have unnecessary steps to do things, and that's part of one of the things I like about them. But it feels like you're playing Lacerda, and it's got all the production quality and all the bits. And I've talked about this in the past. I don't want to spend the next half hour talking about Galactic Cruise, but Galactic Cruise, it's a worker placement Euro, and you're basically building ships, you're advertising cruises, you're launching ships, and you're doing stuff for points. It is so wonderful. Love Galactic Cruise. Thank you guys for playing Galactic Cruise between 9 and 11:30 at night on my actual birthday. That is, of course, by TK King, Dennis Northcott, Colton Thompson, art by Ian O'Toole, and published by Kinson Key Games. There might be a little editing blip in there because I realized partway through that I was reading out the wrong copy and paste. Bullshit. Those are the games that were, and oh my god, they were. On now to incoming, 4 exclamation marks. Well, it was my birthday, so that means more games for the birthday boy, more games for the bunker. I have been on a wee bit of a clean out. I've moved on some games that I'm either finished with, never started, just plain not making the cut for one reason or another. There's not a lot, 8 or 9 that I've just decided that are moving on. Some of them are still in shrink. I bought them with all the good intentions. I'm like, you know what? I'm never going to get to that. It's in part because I have a large number of crowdfunding games on the way in this year, but also we're likely moving house at the end of this year, and it's a great time to break up with some of my games. But birthday games for dear friends this year included Evacuation by Vladimir Suki. I'm very much looking forward to that. Dewan, which I knew nothing about, but looks so gorgeous. And Etherstone. So those were great. Very happy to add them to the collection. Very much looking forward to getting them to the table. More Than Meeples had a 15% off sale. More Than Meeples is a board game distributor, retailer in Brisbane, in Queensland, here in Australia. And one of the things they're fantastic for is aftermarket crowdfunding games. I mean, they have a great selection every day of the week, but they really do have a great selection of Kickstarters with the Kickstarter goodies if you've missed the Kickstarter for whatever reason. So I did pick up the crowdfunding version of Perch, which I think looks absolutely fantastic. It looks mean and nasty, but not brutally awful in all the right ways. And the production is fantastic. And it came with all the little Kickstarter extra goodies and all the little acrylic standees that sit there and lose 3 fingernails peeling all that plastic off. And that was incoming for the birthday week. There's more coming soon. Oh my god, there's some stuff coming. I just can't wait. It's such a good time of year. It's when you get out of Chinese New Year and you know that you've got this glut of stuff that's just going to puke onto your doorstep. Give it to me. Oh, welcome to FOMOMOFO, where I take you through my personal angst-ridden journey of capitalist acquisitionism, and as always, this is far from an exhaustive list of crowdfunding projects, but merely those that have my personal attention, either because they are by a design and development team I like, a theme I enjoy, or because they got the toys. Oh, the toys. Sometimes it's all three. I do love it when it's all three. Well, there is just so much going on in crowdfunding this last 2 weeks. I don't know whether I'm getting more sensible or just jaded with the sheer volume. I just can't think it has anything to do with sensibility. That doesn't sound like me, but I'm not backing for much in this current glut. I don't know if it's because it doesn't resonate with me. I don't think I'm getting more sensible. That doesn't sound right. But anyway, some of these I'm just going to blast through, for reasons, because there's a ton out there in live campaigns. There's a couple of campaigns I don't talk about that I've missed the closing date due to my recording schedule, but they're very likely to have pledge managers open imminently and so on. So first one I'm going to touch on is Arcs Beyond the Reach. It's more arcs. It's more crazy. It's like Cole Worley heard that Root was wildly asymmetrical and said, hold my fucking beer, guys. I like arcs a lot. I think I like the campaign. I think the campaign, the original arc's called Into the Breach. I think I like the campaign. I've only played it once. I really want to play it again, and we misplayed a couple of rules that really screwed with our gameplay loop. But I don't need more arcs. I just don't. Like there's so much in the box, in basic arcs. I could play that probably 6 or 7 times and be absolutely delighted with it. The campaign mode for arcs, there are so many factions in there and so many wild things that happen. I can't imagine playing that out. And it's not often I look at a game and go, well, this got new expansions. I like the game. I don't need the new expansions, particularly when, Beyond the Reach, this new campaign, which is the first one from Cole Worley's new company since leaving Leader Games, has beautiful little metal bits for everything. You've got the quality of life upgrades for all kinds of stuff. I just look at it and go, I don't need metal bits for a game that I just literally can't get to the table. Arcs is already polarizing my group. You know, there's same thing at our table. I think the people that I play with, they're like, oh, I think it's a good game. I just don't know. Now, to its credit, it took me 3 full games of Root before I went, okay, there's a game in here I enjoy. I hated my first game of Root. Like, when I say hated, my skin was crawling at the end. I'm like, just get me out of here. And my second game of Root wasn't much better. It was the third game of Root that I played where I looked at it and went, oh, I see what's happening here. And I see why I like it now. So, look, I would very much like to play more Arcs, but I do not need more Arcs. As I said, there's some gorgeous quality of life upgrades coming with this. This campaign for Cold War is doing more than fine. It's at $1.8 million Australian with 3 weeks left to go. I'm sure Arcs will be the gift that keeps giving for years to come. I mean, the peanut will be there in a couple of years, so there's that. That's Arcs. If you want more Arcs, there's more Arcs. I don't have the pricing for you because I don't care. I don't have the shipping for you because I don't care. But if you like Arcs, you don't care. You don't care what the price is. That's the reality. If you love Arcs, you're like, I don't care how much you want to charge me. Charge me. And the metal bits, I'll take the metal bits. Right? We don't care. We're borderline addicts. We don't give a shit how much it costs. Up next, Garfield Games has 2 new games on Kickstarter, though you better be quick because Shem Phillips and Garfield, they do not do pledge managers. I think you can late pledge, but there's no pledge manager, so prices might be different, for example. The other thing that Garfield doesn't do much of is FOMO. They don't do FOMO generators in the campaign, and I really like and respect that. They don't do stretch goals. They don't do Kickstarter exclusives. They might go, here's a little pack of promo cards. It's 5 cards. It's 5 cards you can add to your game. But if you miss out, we'll see it retail. They're like, hey, it's all good. And I really like that. I really respect that. You know, the great thing about Garfield Games is they'll be in retail fairly quickly. And so you're not really missing out on much. And to be honest, I don't think you're even usually saving much money by getting them crowdfunding, because the crowdfunding shipping is always 3 times what it is when you're buying them locally. This campaign, I haven't even mentioned the campaign, is for 2 games called The Great Sea and Towers of Sifnos. One's about towers, one's about some water. To be honest, there's a photo on the campaign page with these 2 games side by side in one shot. One has slightly more blue on the board than the other, so I'm guessing that's The Great Big Sea. I haven't looked at them a lot, and as your FOMO keeper this week, I'm so far doing a pretty shit job of keeping you informed. But to be honest, I have the entire South Tigris trilogy. I have yet to play one of those 3 games, but I do love Scholars of South Tigris. I like Wayfarers. This has the usual Garfield output look about it. You know, it's got that stylized art that he likes. And there's a ton of gameplay videos by the usual suspects. There's got to be 20 gameplay videos in there, right? This one hit my timeline. When I opened it, I just saw Vanilla Ice Cream, so I didn't look any further. However, you can get both of these new games for $133. And yes, that is 2 new Garfield games, which is totally reasonable. Shipping's another $35. That works out to $84 per game delivered to my door. And for this side of the planet, for Australia, I'm going to be perfectly honest, that is pretty reasonable. It's a no for me, but I know a lot of reasons to say yes to Garfield, right? So this might be your jam, and for $84 a game, you could do a whole lot worse, I'm sure. Up next, I want to circle all the way back to the start of my birthday shenanigans with the Old King's Crown. They just wrapped up their campaign to the tune of almost $5 million Australian. Sweet baby jabibas. This is a reprint of the core game and the original expansion with a new expansion and some quality of life goodies. I said it before, but this is possibly the most gorgeous game that I've seen produced in a very long time. And the fact that the designer also did the art kind of blows my mind. This game's been labeled Game of the Year by some, and it's been labeled Hot Trash by others. I know, for example, that No Pun Included adored this game, and the dude from Board Game Bollocks had some very not nice things to say. And hey, look, opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. Everyone's entitled to one. We all need one. I respect it either way. It certainly has been polarizing. I can say this, I will be playing a whole lot more, even if it means I've got to give the solo mode a go. I don't know anything about the solo mode or what it would be like or how you play a lame battler solo, but we'll see. This is very reasonably priced. The core game is almost exactly $100 Australian dollars, and I think I paid more for that retail here. I think I paid $135 plus shipping here in Australia. Shipping for the campaign is about 30. It's running about 30% across the board, depending on what you order. The expansions are available for about half that. They're running between sort of $40 and $50. There's 2 expansions there. There's some really nice quality of life enhancements. I keep using those words. Metal bits, chunky bits, schmunkerl. Let's come full circle. There's some schmunkerl in there, right? And, metal bits and new tokens and blah, 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 all the toys. And for me, I really like Old King's Crown, and I may just have to join a support group. Here to Slay Dungeons. Now, Here to Slay is this super cute, I won't use the word chibi, it's not chibi, but man, it's close. It's this like anime style dungeon crawling. It's just adorable, right? It's just adorable. Now, Here to Slay was a card game that came out, and it was dungeon crawler adjacent, you might say. This particular campaign is on GameFound. It is making all the monies. All the monies, right? I think they're at, what are they starting at? $5.8 million Australian currently. If you like cute toys, you be playing with cute toys. This has your name all over it. There's playmats everywhere. I think there's 8 different playmats you can get with the game. There's 3 different boxes. The little minis are vinyl. They're not even pre-painted. It's like extruded vinyl. It must be 3D printed. They're not 3D printed, but produced that way. They're vinyl, multicolored. They've got translucent bits, and it's just... It looks like you're playing with something from Super Mario World. Like they've got that same bulbous, curvy edges and eyes too big and all that fun stuff. For me, it's just too cute. I love Peanut, but she's going to be stepping straight into Lands of Evershade. Do not pass go. Do not pause in Here to Slay. Big girls only. It does look nice, but holy moly, it's if you want the all-in, just grab your ankles and cough, okay? Put your hands where your cup goes to protect yourself and say the words, I would like this game, and then watch your insides be carved out for the black market. But hey, I've got plenty of very expensive games. If this is your jam, you have my permission. Not just my permission, my encouragement to go and make that happen. Oh, and there's this thing on GameFound called Brass Pittsburgh, but there's really not much to say about that. I don't think it's kind of speaks for itself.
Voices in my head, I'm talking to myself. What board game should I get down off the shelf?
Today on Voices in My Head, I want to talk about stretch goals. Hurrah! What are they good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. I won't say it again because I only got one in me. I want to talk about Brass Pittsburgh. You didn't really think I wouldn't be all over that like a fat kid on a Smartie, did you? I have it on fairly good authority that Sir Martin Wallace, yes, he's a national treasure, was not involved with this. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't be interested. I just found it curious that they went and made a new version of it. And I don't know whether he wasn't consulted or whether he didn't want anything to do with it. I don't know. I do know he was not involved. Well, I have been told by a reliable source that he was not involved. I'm hoping I might be able to reach out to Mr. Martin Wallace and see if I can get him on the show for my Not All Heroes Wear Capes. But we'll see on that. That said, this game looks gorgeous. And when I say gorgeous, I mean like just your stellar lay of the century. Oh my Christ. I only own one Roxley game, and that is the Kickstarter version of Skyrise. And for what it's worth, I think Skyrise is a superb game, and the Kickstarter version is equally gorgeous. When this game was announced, Roxley went on record to say this would be their quote-unquote most beautifully produced game ever. I paraphrase, right? But if that didn't get your attention when they announced it, then you weren't paying attention. That's all I've got to say. And that said, they launched the campaign with quote-unquote daily stretch goals. Now, these stretch goals were posted with what's called dynamic financial thresholds. And what that essentially means is that they were going to post this goal every day, and the financial goal that it would need to achieve would only be like 10 grand or 20 grand or 5 grand or 2 grand, depending on how fast things are moving ahead of where they were, to get people to go, oh, wow, we'll get some more stuff. It's a marketing mechanic called dynamic financial goals. And it was really quite clear that's what they're doing, because the first goal was announced after 1.8 million and whatever, and then the second goal was announced after 800,000. People were losing their shit. They're like, if we only get a goal every 8,000, these 21 goals, somebody mathed it out, it's going to take 42.7 million before we see those goals. I'm like, oh man, unknot your panties, for fuck's sake. Honestly, the whole process is just an illusion. The stretch goal release, they were daily stretch goals. I mean, if you had read their updates, you would be able to see between the lines that you were going to get a goal every day. And there's no way, if they got to day 5 and they hadn't hit goal number 3, that they're going to release goal 6 and go, by the way, we're $9 million away from goal 6. It was stupid. In one of their updates, they quite clearly said they would be releasing daily stretch goals. You just put 2 and 2 together. You know, what that means is you're getting a new stretch goal every day for the length of the campaign. And I find that wonderfully enticing. You wake up in the morning, you open the phone up, you go, what's today's little surprise? And it might be my age, but I'm ever more and more fond of the slow reveal. You know, it's like the fox getting undressed at night. It's not speedy. It's not even necessarily graceful, but I do enjoy watching, right? This is a show I never miss. The comment section, however, it blew up. It was literally painful to watch. Demands are being made for immediate reveal, not just one or two, dozens and dozens, and probably 100 comments of people going, how am I supposed to invest in this game with what you're charging when I don't know what I'm buying? This is bullshit, and Roxley doesn't know what they're doing, and how dare you release a game for 120 American dollars with cardboard coins? I'm like, dude, do you really think that at the end of 21 days that this game is still going to have cardboard coins when they said it's their most overproduced, beautiful game ever? I mean, the original Brass, you know, when they were released, they relied on people investing in their iron clays. Who's going to buy Brass Pittsburgh and not get upgraded coins? Well, we'll talk more on that. But, I mean, this campaign released and revealed metal versions of these coins. That was up front. They're like, here's your metal coins. They're coming. This is not a surprise, motherfucker. They are gorgeous, and they are eye-wateringly expensive. And the Whining Brigade had a fucking field day with it, right? They had a field day. They were like, these coins should be included with the base game. I'm like, are you kidding me? These coins, which are the same size as the iron clays, if you've never seen the iron clays, they are massive, massive coins. They're massive. They're like the size of a poker chip. And they've got a metal core, and they've got like a ceramic polyamide outside, whatever the case is. Like they feel beautiful. These are metal versions of those. And you think this should be included with the game? Like, pull your head in, honestly. If I've offended anyone here, I don't even care. It's just the stupidest thing in the world to think, well, the base game should come at least with the iron clays. I'm like, come on, man. Brass Birmingham might have come with the iron clays 10 years ago whenever it came out. It's a different economy. This is a game by Roxley. They're known for absolute top shelf production, you know. So this game, it's $108 Australian for a new version of what's essentially the number one game on BGG. With top shelf production, there's so many complaints. And I'm going to say it right here, $108 Australian for a top shelf heavy Euro is not expensive in 2025. I pay that for most Lacerdas, anything like a Rococo Deluxe, anything that's in that upper echelon, anything with that sort of finished production quality is up there in price. I cannot remember a single one that actually included the upgraded money option. Speakeasy was another $60 for the upgraded money on top of the game. No one complained. Give me the game. Fuck, I'm taking the money. Give me the money. I don't give a shit. I couldn't believe the chatter. As a consumer, to be honest, it was frankly embarrassing. And on day 3 or so, Roxley caved. They posted every single stretch goal with a quote-unquote to be unlocked each day. It was like a calendar. It was a nonsensical arrangement. And I was quite disappointed, to be honest. And what do you know? The game will be bling to death. $120 for what we're all getting is insanely cheap. The little oil barrels are metal. The little coal cubes are going to be made of stone. We're getting resin bottles of whiskey. The player boards are dual layered. I mean, come on. This is going to be a beautiful thing. Surprise, surprise. Roxley gave us an amazing game that is absolutely going to be worth the money they're charging. So with stretch goals, what do we do with this twat fest? Honestly, like, what are we doing with, like, personally, I like the daily reveal version. I was a backer on day 1 for this, not because I was so damned eager or afraid of missing out, but I wanted to lock that in. Put it in my calendar, know that it's coming. I knew when I was going in, as soon as Roxley said this will be the wildest, best production we've ever done, you know, citation needed, I'm paraphrasing. The daily reveal is basically the 3-week long strip tease, you know, finally showing what we're all getting at the end. You know, I will say I do like monetary stretch goals within reason. You know, let's take the Don't Starve campaign, for example. This was last year, and I was really excited about this game. I really liked the iOS version of Don't Starve. I played it a lot. The Don't Starve board game has a great aesthetic. It's got these gorgeous, gorgeous little acrylic standees. It looks fabulous. The gameplay loop looked really fun and interesting and engaging, and they made some meaningful changes to the gameplay. It was reasonably priced on launch. I don't remember what it was, but I remember looking like, oh, that's fine. But the monetary stretch goals weren't just extra quality of life enhancements and such. They were expansions. And it was expansion after expansion after expansion. In the end, the all-in was almost $1,000 Australian. And I'm like, you can say, okay, so don't go all in, right? I'm like, look, literally, I'm just not that kind of girl. Okay? It's not that I have to be all in. It's not that I have FOMO. But I'm like, if I'm going to buy a game and I think I'm going to enjoy the game, I want the whole game. Right? And people know this. Marketing people know this, right? They do this just for people like me. And you know, I couldn't even justify just the all-in acrylic set at $400 Australian plus shipping. Not for an iOS game that I could play for $8. And I know it's different. It's on the table. I get it. I'm a board gamer. I get why we do this. I get why we have this compulsion to buy a game when we've already played the game. But you bought Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era. Yes, I did. And I spent way more than $400 fucking on it. And it's on the table and I love it. I love every minute of it. So maybe I just don't starve enough. I don't know. But look, for me, the monetary stretch goal that leads to, and to be honest, Awakened Realms, some of their older campaigns were a lot like this, and Simon was famous for this. Simon was famous for, here's your base game. Oh, by the way, on day 3, here's a new expansion. Day 4, here's a new expansion. Day 7, here's a new expansion. That $70 game you wanted is now $475. Thank you. Oh, by the way, we're not delivering it. I hope they deliver it. I don't mean to be negative. Oh my God. But that was their MO. It was like, well, here's a new expansion after day 3, and people who love DC or Marvel were like, okay, well, we know when they announce a game for $79 that we're in for about $400. We know that. I like stretch goals that give me the show. I like stretch goals. I would have loved, here's the question. Do you like stretch goals? What kind of stretch goals do you like? For most campaigns, they're just marketing fodder, right? I think we all know at this point that the stretch goals are it's just that, as I said, it's that slow strip tease. And then that the game you see on day 1 isn't likely the game they're actually releasing. It's the equivalent of spinning your bra over your head 3 times before lobbing into the corner. That's a stretch goal. I mean, for me, I like stretch goals. I even like the imaginary stretch goals. And when I say imaginary stretch goals, I think, Brass Pittsburgh, their stretch goals were all going to happen. They were all going to happen no matter what. These were daily stretch goals. They weren't actually tied to a specific number. This is the game they designed. They designed this game to be a showstopper game. And there's no way they were going to release a percentage of that. I like stretch goals. I like stretch goals that tease. I like stretch goals that keep that excitement going. I like monetary-based stretch goals when they add, performance-enhancing drugs to the game. I like that. I like stretch goals that go, hey, here's a couple of expansions. I don't mind that at all. It gives you the option of expanding the game you're going to buy. But when it's stretch goals that are like, you thought you were going to spend $200, now we want $900. I can't do that. But for me, with Roxley, I like stretch goals. As I said, even when they're imaginary. I think the game that Roxley designed in Brass looks amazing. And if I had my way, I would have liked a little more bra twirling rather than the tearaway jumpsuit that we all got. Right? Because, they went, huzzah, here's your next 20 stretch goals. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I don't need to look at your page for the next year. Thanks for that. And I was a little disappointed. I know in the end I'm getting the same game, so it's all irrelevant. I feel like Roxley perhaps could have stood their ground a little bit more, but I wasn't in the war room. And after all that, it's fair to say this campaign could get close to $10 million US, so whatever. They're getting my money either way. Well, this week I do want to give the clap. I'm sending this clap out to one of the OMC crew. This is to David in Sweden. More specifically, David, to your daughter, who sounds like a right bloody legend. David reached out to me via our socials. He sent me a couple of messages, and they hit me right in the feels. Thank you for sharing your story, David. I'm not going to share it here. It's not my story to tell, but I look forward to seeing your soon-to-be Paralympian daughter in the near future. And here's to you forging weapons, and here's to you, little miss. Like David, you can reach me on all the socials. Find me on Facebook by searching One Man Clapping. You can email me at wonmanclapping@gmail.com, as in I won all the games. You can find me on Instagram at One Man Clapping. You can join the One Man Clapping Guild on BGG and subscribe to Guild 4426 and join the chatter there. You can help OMC by dropping me a like on Facebook or Instagram, or by leaving a review on whatever platform you choose. If it's a bad review, I will rock back and forth in the corner for 3 minutes. I have a timer for it, and then I get on with my life. Thank you as always for your time. Your time is precious, and the fact that you chose to waste an hour of it listening to how I spend my time is always humbling. Until next time, get your game on, even if you've got to play with yourself. But just remember, we're making weapons, guys. It's a crazy wild world. Stretch goals are a thing, and no one cares. Peace out, mofos.
Locked in the